we are going to pivot a little bit to the portion of the episode where we do like listen to fan submissions. So when I say fan submissions, I do actually mean these are clips from episodes that you guys have submitted. There's a Google form, which there'll be a link in the description of this episode, either under the YouTube video, like in that area, or in the like actual podcast description. There'll be a link to the Google form where you can go and enter which episode you want us to check out, a timestamp for the part of the episode that you specifically want us to talk about, and then why you think it's worth, like why you want us to talk about, what further information you want to know about it. And so if you don't put the episode number or the timestamp, sorry, I'm not gonna go hunting for it, because we have 200 and some odd episodes, and most of them are an hour long each. So that's lots of math and lots of time I'm not gonna go do that. So anyways, actual episode number, actual timestamp, and then let us know why you want us to listen to it or expand on it further. And we have like over 100 submissions. We will never get through them all. Thank you guys.
Wow.
You guys have been going crazy on that. So if there's something specific you want us to talk about, please go there. It's still active, still live, and we love hearing from you guys, and we love hearing what episodes are interesting, or what parts of Sneak Attack lore are interesting to you guys. So without further ado, Dan, why don't you fire away, and we'll listen to the first clip.
All right, here we go.
I knew a man of isolation. I watched his transformation. I met him in the forest of Vanwood. He was a gnome from the Evergrove, wandering across the globe. Thus began the tale of Sherwood.
All right, man, that's a real song. Yeah,
we all burst into tears.
That's a real song, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so that was submitted from Jessica. Thank you, Jessica. And specifically, what Jessica wanted to know was, like, what was the reaction at the table? You know, the first, and like, what was it like the first time each of us heard it? Because myself, Josh, and Kelsey obviously heard it before everyone else, but Mike and Dan heard it for the first time at the table as it happened in the episode. So
it was next level.
Yeah,
like how produced it is. It was just like whoa, and I didn't know Kelsey had a voice.
Yeah, that was a weird experience. A weird good one. I was like, what are we doing? Why are we playing something? And then the song started, and I was like, oh my goodness. And then I think I shed a tear at the end. I might have been crying. I don't know. Okay, Josh was all right. Well,
we filmed it. I'm pretty sure I have the footage of you tearing up somewhere in a hard drive.
Just so we remember that you're not as hard as you pretend you are.
Oh, I'm so hard on the podcast.
Motorcycles and arm
Especially
tats,
with my
guys.
motorcycle. Yeah, it's like, come on, guys.
Just don't write a song about his dead character.
Don't tell the gang that I'm going to be in that I cried to that with my motorcycle. Yeah, I don't know. I think when I look back at that, I think it's just cool. Just obviously Kelsey taking charge and like feeling motivated and kind of inspired to do a song. I just felt really humbled and like honored to be a part of something like that. And that song has lasted like a really long time. I mean, I think that's like one of like our top moments. I would say for me, that's a top moment. Maybe the top moment for me, just because it just was a really cool culmination to a lot of different things. And I had nothing to do with it. So that was kind of cool. So it was just like, I don't know, something really cool and unique that was happening outside the podcast that I got to enjoy for the first time at the table. So that was just kind of cool in that spot.
It was like, to me, you know, D&D is so accessible to anybody. Anyone can hop in and play. The rules are available to almost everybody for free. It's so widely known and recognized that to have a podcast where you play D&D is like, okay, that's interesting. Like, why would I listen to a show where people play D&D? You know what I mean? Because I can just play D&D myself, and I get that as a creator and as a DM, I totally get that. And so this was the moment for me where I was like, oh, we're a show. You know what I mean? Like, we're like a legit thing. And it was just like, it was that next level of like, oh, this is why people would listen to this show, because you will never get this out of just like a group of friends at a table. That was like next level elevation of the show, like our storytelling as a group, everything. It was just like poof, next level for all of it. What about you, Josh? Like, what do you remember from that process?
I remember Kels having the idea and sitting down with our buddy Jordan Hicks, who is a really gifted musician, and so that's Jordan playing the guitar in there. And then our buddy Platt is actually, I think, am I right, Kels? He the one that recorded it, and
Yeah, we recorded as a department.
And produced it. And so I'm always blown away by the talented people that are just around us,
Mm-hmm.
and are so gung ho about like jumping in and doing fun stuff like that. So yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And to me, it showcases what like because it's like the whole like we're still friends hanging out at the table. I don't think ever left. But yeah, it's one of those things like we would never have seen a moment like that if we weren't producing it as a podcast.
Right.
Like it gave room for something so cool like that. Like we had the story that backed it up, the consistency of creating content, and just the nature of having an audience that I feel like, and then the access to awesome people and the gumption of my wife to go, I'm gonna write a song. Like,
which you don't hear stuff like that out of me very often.
No, but it made sense for you like at the time, right? Because you like were like, this feels right as my character.
And I just got out of school, so I had free time.
That's right. It was the summer. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the first couple weeks of summer that Jordan and I met. The other thing that I want to mention about Jordan is Jordan listened to the podcast.
So does Platt. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so but like Jordan and I sat down and wrote it in a day. But it was like, it was true collaboration because he knew Sherwood, he knew the story, he knew everything that had happened. So it was really like fun to crank out.
That's so cool because like you say that of like Jordan writing it as helping you write it and do the music as a fan. So it's almost like this collaboration of, the producer, like the creator, along with fan art. You know what I mean? It's this fun little like melding of the two. It's like, it's almost like official podcast fan art, but it's also 100% integrated within the story and creative output of the show proper, which is super interesting. Yeah, like, gosh, Josh was dead on the money. We have so many talented people within our direct circle of like people we know in real life who are fans of the show and fans of D&D, and we're just like, yes, we would love to do this because we love what you guys are doing, and it's a cool project to work on, and to be blessed with that level of access, I think is stupid for 5 people living in the middle of Nebraska. It's ridiculous. Legitimately, I know you like that's like a top 3 moment like of all my D&D playing, like, period, for me. That's
same.
And when Kelsey came to me, the very first thing she said is, hey, I've got this idea, but I need a guitar in game. That was like how she pitched it.
Yeah.
That was how she pitched it. I said, okay, cool. Like at that point, the idea was still very liquid. It was just like not quite sure how it would develop, but she just knew that she needed a guitar. I said, okay, cool. So the fact that you went to that store and got a guitar or a guitar, I forget what we call it, like
That's right.
That whole interaction was just to get you a guitar. And even like several episodes after that, you were like, I'm still like practicing my guitar. I go off in the woods for a bit and like try and like figure a few things out. That was all leading up to the song reveal. Like that seed was planted a long time ago. I love that, by the way. That's one of my favorite things.
It's one of those moments that like listeners will go, hey, like friends, you have to see this moment. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's like I can count on like one hand those kind of moments where I'm like, I can remember people saying like, this is what made me start telling other people to come and listen to this thing.
Yeah.
And very much that was one of those moments where it's like whether you know the story or not, this gal on this show plays a bard and she literally just made a song.
Yeah.
Like something really cool.
Yeah, it does. It's reminiscent of like, those water cooler moments with your favorite TV shows where you're like, oh, you're not watching Breaking Bad? You have to watch Breaking Bad. Like, the best episode just happened, blah, blah, blah. And like, how are you not watching this show? It was that kind of moment where you're like,
Community paintball episode.
right. It was like, holy crap, they did a full war homage episode in a 22-minute series, and how are you not watching this? Holy crap, they did a fully produced song in a random open world storytelling D&D campaign. How are you not listening to this? It was that moment, which is so cool to be a part of. Okay, thank you, Jessica, for that question. I love seeing that one come in, and I'm not surprised it didn't take long in the Google form submissions for that question to pop up. So thank you for being the first to ask. Dano, let's go to the next one.
All right.
What's going on, Arlen? Did you do this?
No, Greg, I did not do this, and I don't know how many times I can tell you it's Arlen. There's no D at the end. Just, and he kind of like holds his head in his hand, just never mind.
Just call him Greg.
No, Greg, I did not do this. This has been a very sad day for me, and I imagine this is a little bit of a sad day for you, I hope.
Where's Tegan?
Why do you want to know? Are you aligned with him?
No, just curious.
We were.
He looks at you, Greg,
When
and
he was leading the resistance.
he kind of starts laughing to himself. He goes, leading the resistance. That's what he's been telling you?
Aye. You had your purple goons going all around. Last time I saw you, Arlen,
he winces.
you were leading an army of thugs that were chaining everyone in High Rock.
Greg. Tegan is a prince of the apocalypse.
All right. Can we also just say how much I miss the Greg voice? I never thought I would say I miss the Greg voice, but man, I really do.
Same. I'm almost dead certain I still refer to him as Arland.
You did earlier.
That's not Josh playing a character. That's just Josh being Josh.
I don't think it's died down. Yeah, it locked into my brain.
The worst with names.
That was from Smash Bear, by the way. Thank you, Smash Bear. And specifically, what Smash wanted to know was, did I know that Arlen was going to be good? Like when did I decide he was going to be the good guy, or like at least not the bad guy? You know what I mean? Because the whole lead up was everyone thought that he was the bad guy, especially with his early dealings with Thalen before the time jump, and then what you guys saw at a distance outside High Rock after the time jump. It was all meant to imply that he's the bad guy, and that Tegan was helpful, and then whoop whoop, all that switcheroo. It was to answer your question, Smash, I did not know from the very beginning that Arlen was going to be helpful, like it was going to be a bait and switch. I thought I think I've told this story before where I was like, I was very, very sick. I had a very high fever, and I was up in the middle of the night sweating on my couch. And I kind of like put those pieces together. Like I just arranged them in the right order. And then I just like feverishly wrote down on my phone, like that process of like, wait, no, Arlen's not the bad guy. He's the good guy. Tegan's the bad guy, and blah, blah, blah. And then I tried to connect all the loose threads that I thought were still like a little unfrayed, and to try and like smooth that out. But no, it wasn't always the plan from the beginning. But Smash also specifically wanted to know what your guys' reaction was when you found out that Tegan is Prince of the Apocalypse and Arlen is actually just kind of like a dude, I would say not perfect, just motivated by his own self-interest, not necessarily something nefarious.
I was so convinced that Arlen was a main bad guy that I think when that reveal happened, I didn't know whether to believe it 100% or not.
And to set some context for that conversation, that conversation happens as the first time you guys go back to the old abandoned Pineapple Gang hideout where the Resistance was hiding out. You guys go there for the first time after the time jump, I'm pretty sure, and all of the Resistance is dead. All their bodies are like piled in the center, and that's where we discover Uncle Linus is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that wasn't after the time jump though.
I mean, it was,
That was
but right,
it was, but like because
The resistance was after the time jump.
yeah,
because like the resistance was this is after we came back from
The plane?
like we had come back to Norwich after going to the elf island for the first time.
oh, okay,
This is when we've come back because if I remember correctly, our first encounter with Arlen was he was the wizard, right?
right.
And so we encountered him before time jump in like a hall with
Right.
with-
That's when you guys first met Thalen. He was like her right hand.
yes, and then we did the time jump, and Sherwood and I encountered him with a bunch of the Princes of the Apocalypse, right?
Well, the purple guards, yeah, like
Purple guard guys, yeah.
Yep.
And then that's why we were convinced he was kind of one of the big bads. And then when we came back to Norwich to hook up with the resistance, which we had believed Tegan was leading, that's when we found Arlen there and all the dead bodies.
right. Because if I'm not
Right?
mistaken, yeah, I believe that's the correct series of events. Because if I'm not mistaken, too, that's when both Brenna and Grayek had that like heart to heart with Tegan as he was questioning his like. At the time, it felt like he was questioning his leadership ability, but in reality, he was questioning his own like mettle to go forward with betraying people. And so it wasn't like, can I do this as a leader? It was, do I have the evil in me to do what's being asked of me? And
Spoiler alert, he
but
did.
yeah, but you guys didn't know that at the time. You just thought like, oh, he's wavering, but it wasn't about that. At that point, I did know that Tegan was the bad guy.
I don't think Greg ever believed in him.
No, for sure not.
Like, if I remember correctly, like legitimately Greg like threatening him after everyone else had kind of come around and being like, "You can't be a good guy. You're a bad guy."
Yeah.
So I don't think Greg was surprised that Tegan was a villain in the end.
Yeah. So
Angry, but not surprised.
It was really fun living through my baggage and having to like deal with my real life baggage as an educator when you spend so much time investing in a person and then they turn out to be a doo-doo head.
he called you a doo-doo head.
Got him.
I want that moment. I don't know what we talk about, but I want that moment.
Yeah. What episode is that? Where Sherwood?
The Halloween episode.
Yeah, it's the Halloween episode.
I'm not going with her. She called me a doo-doo head.
What?
That was. I'm pretty sure. Brenna
I
found a
told you.
note or something, and it's and Sherwood's like, "What does it say?" And Brenna says, "It says you're a doo-doo head." And then they're like, "All right, come on, guys, let's go do this thing." And you're like, "I don't want to do it. It said I'm a doo-doo head."
That's right, the sleepaway camp.
Oh gosh.
Oh, I love that Halloween episode so much. Oh my gosh. I think that's
So
in my
great.
top 3.
So great.
That it's funny because online there's a huge contingency of people who like swear by that episode too. I remember in the time being like it was goofy and wacky and fun to do, but at the same like I didn't feel like it would resonate nearly as much as it did. But apparently like there is a huge dedicated fandom to that episode in particular because someone on the Discord, which by the way, if you're not a member of the Discord, in this off season, like while we're not producing weekly episodes, you should hop on the Discord. It's the unofficial official Sneak Attack podcast Discord that is run by fans, but has like it. We fully support it, condone it, let them do their thing because they're awesome people. So anyone can hop in and join if you want to join and talk about the show with people who are very passionate about it. You can hop in there. If you're a patron, you get special access so we can like communicate that way as well. So like, go check it out. There'll be a link to the Discord in the description of this episode, or in the links under the video on YouTube. So go check that out. But yeah, lots of people on Discord are huge fans of that episode, and very much surprised me.
I remember editing it and finding the that sound effects from, is it Saw?
It's Halloween.
Halloween. Oh, that's right. Okay, it was perfect. I remember using that sound effect.
Yeah,
like several times.
And it's like our opening theme song was like a wolf howling before it all
like
what animal did Mike turn into and then like knocked down?
It was the shadow bear, wasn't it?
Was it the shadow bear?
I think so.
No, the shadow bear is at the end of the episode, but he turned into an animal and knocked down the front of that poor
Fitstan.
Yeah.
Fitstan's house.
Yeah, he like knocked it down.
I thought it was Greg who like tried to like bust the door down and the whole house collapsed, but the door stayed upright because he rolled like a nat 20 on his strength.
That's what it was.
That's probably what happened.
So it's just like Fitstand behind the doors, the entire house collapses behind him, and
but that's where we got the shadow bear, was from that episode.
Mm-hmm.
And that villain would have been a great villain to see back. Like it was so interesting, but we destroyed him.
Oh, Orlanx the Eternal?
Yeah, like it was only in one episode of the entire show.
Yeah, he was eternal up until that point. You just didn't know that.
I was always wary of puzzles from that episode forward.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime it was me and Mike with a puzzle, I was like, we're not going to get it.
I look behind the painting. That was my favorite.
I thought it was a painting on the wall. I didn't realize it was like removable.
Like a tapestry, yeah.
I love the mannequin that they equipped and it came to life. That was awesome.
Right. It was equipped with items they gave it. So if you wanted to, it could have been a terrible enemy, but they gave it like all their best gear. It's like, all right, I'm gonna put my armor on, I give him my sword, I give it all this stuff, and then he comes to life. He's like, oh no, this monster that I have created.
Frankenstein.
Gosh, guys, I was such a good DM back then. What happened?
Good old times.
Yes, with your plans too much.
Okay, I don't know if you can actually see the files, Dan. We're like at 50 minutes right now, or maybe a little less than that. But there's one I definitely want to get to.
I've got them numbered on my end.
Oh, perfect. Let's do number 4.
Number 4. All right, here goes.
So, Sherwood, as you collect all this stuff, you turn around, you see this like really large goblet, kind of freestanding, and inside is this water that looks kind of clear, but also kind of murky.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it started out maybe like really, really clear, and then while you're staring at it, a drop of something falls from the ceiling and lands in the goblet, and the water turns a little bit more black, and you can see that the drop that fell in was kind of black and
Greg.
Am I out of the tunnel yet?
Yeah, you find this. You find
my
this
armor. I like hand it over to him. The water is.
I don it.
I don't like things, shadowy things dropping from the ceiling.
We look up.
Yeah, it looks like a rock formation.
I don it.
There's got to be some gaps or cracks up there to where something's seeping through.
So
Josh, I don it. Nice. I don this armor.
He
Stand back,
so
foe.
hard for all of Volume 1. He just the stupidest.
I think I had recently learned how like the terms were don and doth for that, and I really wanted to say doth, but I didn't have an opportunity, so I just said don, which is the non-cool one. So,
but at the same time, it takes like 10 minutes to don your armor. I just picture you like tossing it on the ground and jumping in it. It's like that's just not how it works. They're not snow pants.
Video game, you pick it up and then it's on.
Yeah,
just move it over into your inventory.
Yeah, you need like 6 guys to help you secure it in a quick fashion. But
all right, done.
Yeah.
He's got that quick release armor.
Yeah. That one was
Fish People.
That was the Fish People. That one was submitted by Connolly. Thank you, Connolly. So specifically what Connolly wanted to know was what was with the bowl. what on earth was this goblet for? And is Drapadanks real? That's what everyone wants to know. For all 3-4 years, is Drapadanks real? Well, I'll start with the bowl with the
Got a
goblet.
Twitter feed.
Does Drapadanks have their own Twitter?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I'm not surprised. There's also a Death Marrow's Reign Twitter and all sorts of fun fan accounts, and a fake Greyek Twitter, which is that was one of the earliest parody accounts and was forever my favorite because it was just him saying just like very obvious dwarf things.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I like burgers, and I'm like, I like hamburgers and Coca-Cola, and I'm like,
Got him. That's true. That's what he would say. He would say that.
Retconning Greg.
Oh man, it was so great. So let's start with the bowl. So if I'm not mistaken, the kind of like the archpriest of the fish people, he is the one who communes directly with Drapadanks. Because everyone else had to walk in backwards. You can't look at Drapadanks.
yeah.
But he was the archpriest, so he could actually commune with this god. And the reason why he kind of turned crazy and started a cult under the mountain is because he was drinking from this goblet that was being distilled by the black goopy poison that Malamed had like spread over the world. So that black goop was the same black goop that Malamet caused, the same black goop that Grey got infected with.
Sherwood got infected with that rose up from the ground in the final climactic battle of Volume 1. That's all like it was dripping into that goblet. And the archpriest, whose name I forget off the top of my head, he saw this thing dripping and thought it was more significant than it was, because the fish people, I'm going to blow everyone's mind here if you didn't know this already, they're actually the Kuatoa. That they're just a D&D creature, very, very common D&D creature. And the trait about the Kuatoa is they create gods for themselves. And oftentimes they're out of nothing at all. They're totally arbitrary, totally not based on any sort of grand event. It's just like, hey, here's 3 sticks tied together. A deity must have done this. And so what was happening is this archpriest saw the black goop dripping from his cave ceiling, thought it was, because again, the Kuatoa didn't know anything outside of their cave existed. So they thought it was like a gift from a god from outside their world. And so he was drinking from this goblet that was poisoning his mind. And so he, after that, again, I'm going to shock a lot of people here, but he invented Drapadanks. My son is very loud. Drapadanks is not real at all. 100% fabricated, 100% fictional.
I don't believe it. Nope.
Whoa.
And
non-believer over here, guys.
Yeah.
So as being poisoned from this disease, he fabricated Drapadanks, turned himself into like kind of like the god of the mortals, because everyone treated him as if he had direct access to Drapadanks, and yeah. So when
I didn't realize that was like lore friendly with the Kuatoa.
Yeah, that's actually in the book.
Awesome.
They that part of their lore in D&D world is they create gods. They're very gullible. And so when Sherwood shows up and turns into a bear, all of a sudden their worldview gets turned entirely upside down.
That's right. He became another god or something.
Yeah. Then there were 2 rival gods, and what we never saw was that
Greg could never impress them enough.
What we never saw happen between the beginning and the end is the contingency of Drapadanks followers were eventually overtaken by the contingency of Shadow Bear or like Sherwood Bear followers, and that's why when the ground opened and started attacking Valisar, they had all the banners of the bear god. that had been their deity for all those years after that.
Love it.
Sherwood is the real MVP, guys.
I was a distant god to them. I feel bad. I didn't.
Hey, I mean,
Wow.
I think honestly you did better than Sylvana. She pieced out for like 1,200 years.
That's true. I was working on
may not
things.
be real, but Sherwood is.
Yeah, they got to come out of the cave.
That's it.
I mean, what is a god anyway?
Hmm.
I mean, that's
There are books about this, Kelsey, called I think Deities and Deva or something, and like one of the editions of D&D. So
Oh, I'm not
you
talking about D&D. That was a deep question, Josh.
that's actually the entire theme of all of Volume 2 is what does it mean to be a god?
Chip a god?
I mean, are we all gods?
Is
And-
anybody
and,
else just immediately
Is
going to the
Kanye.
soundtrack from El Dorado? It's good to be a god when you've got the people's mind.
No, keep going.
I don't remember
What?
the rest of the lyrics.
What?
It's a great movie.
Road to El Dorado.
Road to El Dorado. Is that what did I call it?
You just said
El
El Dorado, but I know what you
You
meant.
said Dorado.
He said Dodge Durango. So,
Elton John, baby.
okay, let's do. Oh, there's two really good ones left that I want. Okay, we might go a little bit long, but let's do number 5, Dan.
All right.
What big things to know? Big things to know. Do you remember Arlen Brampton?
Yeah, the
Yes.
nautical exchange guy.
Don't trust that guy.
Okay.
Never did.
Yeah.
You don't trust anybody. She actually says that to him.
I look at Brenna and I say, for good reason.
So it turns out that Arlen was double dealing, so to speak. He was a rogue agent.
Mm.
He operated with a secret intelligence society tasked with the return of Valisar. They called themselves the Knights of Vassal.
All right. So specifically, that's the part I wanted to point out, and I think that's the point that Spencer wanted to point out too. Thank you, Spencer. And we played these a little out of order because that happened before you learned that Tegan was lying to you. So that was Tegan you guys were talking to, by the way. He was telling you that Arlen was a bad guy, but of course Tegan was the bad guy.
Nice.
Got him.
Everybody's bad.
Yeah, but Spencer Costello asked that question, but specifically wanting to know what on earth are the Knights of Vassal? Because I don't think they're literally ever mentioned again for the rest of the podcast, and I that is me trying too hard to spin a really complex weave of like political intrigue, and eventually I just
Episode wanting it a little bit, like you're gonna get into the trade negotiations.
no
Not that in the weeds.
He's making a Knights of Ren.
specifically what I was trying to do is almost treat it like a mafia scenario, because there are within a mafia of any kind, there are always smaller pockets of like mini organizations that ultimately like are part of a larger hierarchy of leadership or organization. So I'd always planned on the Pineapple Gang. You know, the Pineapple Gang was working for the princes. They were just like a group of people that had pledged their allegiance to the princes. And I mean, even look at Lord of the Rings. The Saruman's army, or Sauron's army at the end, wasn't just orcs. It was people from the south and other people who just thought, you know what, this guy's gonna win, so I'm gonna hitch my horse to this caravan. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just like an army he raised up. So the plan was that the Princes of the Apocalypse like had recruited all of these like factions and individuals and groups that got on board with what they were trying to promote. And so the Pineapple Gang was one of them. They're terrible at what they did, but they were one of them. The Knights of Vassal were going to be another contingency of people that had their own agenda, similar to the doppelgangers and the shapeshifters. They had their own agenda throughout all this as well. But they were just going to be another group who sided with the princes, but had like a specific goal in mind. And after a while, I just realized like they're all the same thing. You know, the Pineapple Gang, the princes, they're all this. They're just the princes. They're the bad guys. I'm overcomplicating this process of like explaining who the bad guys are or what their motivation is. I don't need to go that deep. And so I think when I first wrote the Knights, the plan was Arlen's involvement was or like what I was pitching was Arlen's involvement was much more financial driven rather than like power, because Arlen's whole thing was just like influence. He wanted to control things, not necessarily be like king of the planet, but he just wanted to have his hand in everything. And so I think that was more the idea, is he could like oversee legislation or move things around to help his like shipping lanes and all that stuff just like get fast tracked. So he was in it for his own personal reasons and decided to side with the prince. But again, it just became too messy, and so I just like cut out all the middleman. Said, all right, these guys, princes. That's what that is, and that's why you never saw the knights again. It just became too much.
Any chance we'll see a space version of the Knights of Basal? In Volume 2?
You know, it's I've thrown enough antagonists at you guys that you guys don't really care about. So I think we're just gonna stick with those for the time being. You know, see if maybe one of them sticks. If not, who knows? They could make a comeback. So
We got to start killing them.
that's right. Thank you, Spencer, for that question. I appreciate that very much. Let's do one more question. Let's do number 6, Dan.
All right.
You're probably a half a galaxy away from the Herthy system, just in a vacant pocket of space.
T,
Hmm.
did you mess with anything on the ship?
I am offended. I make one mistake, but Ethan messes up
We got-
constantly. Lucky gets drunk, but I'm the one that gets blamed when we end up in the middle of nowhere.
Correct. You got us lost for a month. Next to a sun. It was very hot.
I needed some vitamin D. That is not a crime.
So that's one of my favorite little like just throwaway interactions. By the way,
Is that improv?
yes, that's specifically the question. That came from Snow Red, Laura, I believe. Thank you, Snow, for that submission. They specifically wanted to know how much of Sneak Attack is based on backstory versus how much is made up on the spot. And so I think that's a really interesting like dynamic to walk when you're doing collaborative storytelling, and like how much of that feeds into the larger story as a whole. So I'm gonna kind of let Kelsey and Mike take this one because this was their interaction, and I can say for sure, definitely not part of any larger backstory.
No, I just think I was really feeling it that night, and I wanted to RP as hard as Mike RPs, and he picked up what I threw down. He said yes, and that's really the law of improv: is you never say no, you always say yes, and I really think Danny and Josh could learn a lot from us.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yes,
Exactly.
and exactly.
So like at what point, if ever, has throughout the course of all the Sneak Attack, has something like a throwaway line like that worked its way back into like a larger aspect either of your character or maybe the storyline as a whole or anything like that? Has there ever been a moment that happened seemingly at random that ended up playing a larger part for any of your characters?
The Rube Goldberg machine.
That was a throwaway?
Yeah. I was just like, what would she be doing? She'd be building a Rube Goldberg machine.
Vaping. I did not intend for that to be part of my character at all on any level.
It is part of the class though. You do specifically get like
It was like a vape incense, right?
Right.
It was like
right.
and so I don't know that I realized that. I just you said the words vape and I thought, oh, I'm vaping, and so I then turned that into like a key part of my character and the whole vape nash kind of joke.
Sure.
And now it's so lucky. Like it's
also one of my favorite things that we got that email from that company that wanted to start their own vape store. It was like, hey, where do you guys get your supplies from? And where, like, what's the best way to get started vaping? What the heck? That was one of my favorite things to ever. I mean, that and the obviously the Sneak Attack, like Ethan Cole thing, because turns out that
Ethan Cole on YouTube.
My whole character is built on a joke.
right, well, I mean, that's always been the case.
Well,
But
this is true.
This one,
Like,
even
all my
more.
characters are basically a product of whatever's happening in the moment and how crazy I can get.
Really?
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, there is this. I don't want to talk bad about anybody, but it's just I don't understand it. There's this YouTube channel. They're not called Sneak Attack, but they have
a
this
very successful YouTube channel.
I mean, they get hundreds of thousands of views per video. I don't
Way
know.
more views than us.
Yeah, they're the prime Sneak Attack. So, but they have this series on their channel called like they're the Sneak Attack Gang or Sneak Attack Crew or something like that. And I don't know why they call themselves that. I mean, it's probably the same reason we do. It's just it's a phrase. And they're kids. So please, if you're listening to this, don't go brigading them.
Nothing but love.
Nothing but love.
Yeah.
Legitimately, we have no beef with them at all. But there are these two kids as part of this gang. They're like the leaders
Nerf
are.
gun?
Their names are Ethan and Cole. Like those are two first names of two children. And so I got this email. It was like, hey, I really love your show, and it sounded very legit for the first couple sentences, and then it was like, I would love to get some Ethan and Cole dog tags or something like that if you would ever sell them. And I was like, wait a minute, what is going on? And it was such a mystery to us for so long. I sent it to the group because I thought it was funny. Yeah, I was like, maybe like Mike is. I don't know. Like this. I mean, Danny and Mike are kind of common names. Ethan and Cole are kind of common names, but
we didn't really say our real names that often back then.
No. And so I shared it with the group, and we all laughed, and that was just kind of it for a long time. We had no idea what they were referencing until like months later. We find I forget who it was, Josh probably, that found
I don't remember
this actual channel, and we realized this is what that one person was referencing, and so Danny built his whole character off of those kids from that YouTube channel.
I think I found the YouTube channel, and I think Reed, you connected the Ethan Cole. Like I don't think because I don't have the brain to do that, to connect those dots. I just probably thought it was funny one time, and then you actually looked at it and we're like, oh my gosh, those are the guys.
I couldn't believe it. That to me is one of my favorite, funniest fan interactions. That's not a real fan. It's so
they may not know it, but now they got a character basically named after them in Volume 2.
Yeah. It's synergy, guys. Eventually, that we're going to be on their show.
Follow for follow.
Follow back. All right, that's going to do it for this very special quarantine episode number 2. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, cast of Sneak Attack, for taking time out of your day. I know it's difficult carving out an hour or so throughout your lives, especially with everything else going on. So the fact that I can get you all here just makes me happy. I love seeing your faces and hearing your voices, and just it feels like we're together even though we're not together, and it still makes me happy. So appreciate you all very much. Thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy this content. It's a little unique, it's a little different, but it's still just our way of saying thank you for being fans, and we hope that this can be a little reprieve from your normal or what is now your new normal of quarantine life, kind of repetitive or that type of behavior. We just want to know that we're thinking about you guys. We hope you're all staying safe. Hope all your families are doing well, and yeah, we just can't wait to be back in the regular routine, regular swing of things. Putting out weekly episodes again. That's what we're all hoping for. So, yeah. Again, if you are a patron on patreon.com/sneak, thank you for your support, your continued support of the show and collaborative storytelling. We have a lot of really fun new announcements for our patrons coming up here very shortly before the end of the month, and myself and Mike are working on fun new rewards for the backers as well. So if you are a backer, thank you. If you're not a backer, you can go to patreon.com/sneak. There'll be a link in the description, and go check it out. We think there's a lot of really awesome like behind the scenes or extra bonus engagements opportunities with us, and just other just things to help if you enjoy the show and want to support it. We think there's a lot of stuff here that you will find interesting or engaging. So with that, that's going to do it. Thank you so much. My name is Reed. I'm the host of Sneak Attack. All around me, we got Dan.
Mike.
Great. Two of you said it. Your names over the top of each other twice. So I appreciate that. That's going to do it. Thank you guys. Appreciate you.
Bye. Goodbye.